Hello YouTube. Today we are going to be doing a program review, or rather a program critique, because it is not something that has been created by someone on the channel. It is an actual program that you can find online, and the name of the program is the Fierce 5. So the program can be found mostly on bodybuilding.com. It seems to be originated from that website. It's easily accessible. If you type Fierce 5 in Google, you will find it very easily. So usually when I do a program critique or program review, I prepare it beforehand, especially if the program is complicated or it involves any type of specific scheme. But this is not the case. This is a novice program. If you watch my video about novice programs and how to program for novice, you should already know my mentality about them, and it's going to show in this video. So I'm basically shooting from the hip here, and I'm going to talk about the program and what I like about it. So, and what I dislike also. So what the creator, he doesn't really give his real name, so his name is Davis, apparently, so Davis said that he was not happy with most novice programs and therefore he made his own. And I understand perfectly where he's coming from because I'm the same. I'm not happy with most novice programs. And therefore I make my own. And I'm going to critique all the novice programs such as strong lifts, 5x5, all that stuff. I will explain why I don't like them, why I think they are subpar for novices. But here we're working with something that is only two workouts, so workout A and workout B, with a lot of frequency, because he basically tells people to do them one day on, one day off. So you do workout A on Monday, Tuesday you rest, Wednesday you do workout B, etc., etc. First off, from a recovery perspective, that's smart to not have beginners work out every day. It's good for them that they get a day to rest. It's also good that they only spend 3 to 4 days a week in the gym for an hour. He says that the workouts will take an hour. And I agree with him. I think it is an accurate time management perspective of his own programmation. So you're going to spend 3 hours, 4 hours in the gym a week. For a beginner, it's good. You don't have the mental stamina to spend hours and hours every day. So this is already a good thing that I see with this program. A second good thing that I see is that it's focused on compound movements. That's already a good sign of a good program. If I open a novice program and I see tons of machines, tons of cables, I'm already going to go on a limb and say it's a bad program, because novices don't need that. Unlike what most people think, and I'm going to make videos about it, machines and cables are for advanced lifters, for people who know what they're doing. I know they're attractive when you don't know anything because it's guided, but as I said in my previous video, you're a novice, you should jump in the sea and try to swim. Don't stay where you can walk in the water, because you're never going to progress that way. So you need to do compounds. He makes compounds very important in his programs. That's a good program. Now, the way he separates the compounds is different than what I would do, because he will basically have you do full body workouts. You will do upper body and lower body compounds on the same day. It's not an approach I'm a big fan of, just because if you do that, one of the compound is going to suffer. So let's say you squat and bench on the same day. The second compound you do is going to be suffering, because compounds take a lot of energy from you, especially when you're a novice. This is why I always like to have one heavy compound to start the workout, and then variations or lifts that target the same portion of the body, upper or lower, as I explained in my programs. So here I already have an issue, because I will put the workouts in the description and you will be able to see that on workout A, he makes you squat and then bench. Okay? You would be able, most people would tell you, oh, well, squatting is not going to recruit the same muscles as the bench. Yes, but it's going to recruit the same CNS and it's going to tax your stamina. And I think for novices, you're going to lack that stamina. So it might be a hindrance. You might have a lacking progress on the bench because of that and not be able to figure it out because you're a novice. This is also the reason why I really dislike novice programs who have novices benching and deadlifting on the same day. I think it's super counterproductive. So here I already have an issue, but it's squat and bench. It's okay. Let's say it's okay. Then he has you do Pendlay Rows. I have a problem with that too. Because Pendlay Rows, in my opinion, are the most technical variations of the Pendlay that you can ever do. And the thing is that in his substitutions, so in the lifts that he's telling you can replace it with, he tells you have to do an horizontal pull to the chest with a wide grip. So basically he's telling you, do Pendlays. Some people will be able to pull it off, but the type of rigidity in the lower back, the positioning of the hips, and especially the mobility it takes in the hamstrings to perform Pendlay Rows properly, especially if you do them with a wide grip, is not something that most novices are going to be able to do. So that's my issue. I also am of the belief that one lift that is not critical for novices to do are horizontal lifts, especially from the floor. You can get away with not doing rows for a very long time and replacing them by cables. I know I just told you cables suck, but as far as rowing goes, if you're going to do something on the horizontal plane, I would much rather have you do cable rows than doing Pendlay rows. And once you build a good connection with your back and you're able to do cable rows using your back, you can move to Pendlay rows. Because when I see people do Pendlays, they cheat on their Pendlay because they don't know proper form, they don't know how to get tight in their upper back. They pull with their arms, so there's no back involvement. They don't flex the lats before pulling. They don't retract the scapula. They don't use their back. Basically, it becomes something else. And it's going to teach lifters bad habits that will not be corrected because he doesn't make you do deadlift. For me, it's a deal breaker. When I see a program for novices and there's no pull from the floor, you have to have one. And it can be whatever you want, as I explained in other videos. It can be conventional deadlift, it can be sumo deadlift, it can be Jefferson deadlift, it can be Atlas stones, that's still a pull from the floor. It can be trap bar deadlift. You need a 4 range of motion pull where you're going to engage maximum hip flexion and really do a hip hinge. He has you do Romanian deadlift, which I like because Romanian deadlift teach you how to deadlift properly, but if you're a novice, all of these people are going to go online because they don't know what a Romanian deadlift is. They're going to Google the form, and what happens when you type on YouTube Romanian deadlift, you see a bunch of people who do Romanian deadlift, meaning that they do a stiff-legged negative deadlift. I made a video about it, but basically, what people mean when they say, oh yeah, you need to learn how to do Romanian deadlifts before you do normal deadlift on the floor to learn the form, is not the same as a Romanian deadlift that most lifters are going to demonstrate on YouTube. The difference is going to be in the knee flexion, in the amount of hip movement, if the hips travel back or not. And if the novice looks it up, they're going to end up with the definition of it that is not going to serve them when it comes to deadlift form. Because if they do it and they transition to deadlift from the floor afterwards, they're going to be those type of people who pull with stiff-legged and who think they're doing deadlifts and they're actually doing stiff-legged deadlifts. So that is, in my opinion, helping pandemic spread of bad form on the deadlift. So I would have you, and we'll talk about that later. I will say at the end what I would do different with the program. But so that's an issue. No deadlifts. Okay. We plus the Pendlay Rows. Then he has you do face pulls. Love it. Face pulls are great for beginners. But he has you do face pulls and that's it. Face pulls are not taxing. You can superset them with something. So again, later I will talk more about that. He has you do calf raises, which I'm not a big fan of. Because even though I preach complete muscular development, for novices, I try to not have them work on body parts they can catch up on later. And calf, for me, is just not important. And he has you do tricep press downs on a superset. Okay, so that's a lot of a lateral and medial tricep work, but on that workout A day, there has been zero long head of the tricep work. Okay? He does tell you you can switch out the tricep press downs for skull crushers, but they're not the same exercise. He says basically any tricep isolation exercise. Okay, but they're not the same exercise. They don't target the same areas. So I would say yes, do skull crushers instead of the tricep press downs. Which again, we're going back to it. For beginners, tricep press downs, they're going to do them and they're going to engage a ton of shoulders. I can already see it in my head. So maybe not the best lift to have them do. Workout B. For front squats, we have a 3x5. So he's basically making you do another knee flexion, which I love. Great. Thing is, front squats, and I'm going to make videos about it, I love front squats. I'm addicted to front squats. They are not accessible to novices. It's a very technical lift. It requires a ton of thoracic extension that novices don't have. It requires a ton of flexibility and mobility in the spine to be able to reach for the rack position. So it's going to be one of two things. A, they're going to do front squats with horrible form. They're going to develop wrist pain and they're going to basically develop bad posture. Or two, they're going to put a ton of work in the front squat to really learn the form, but they should have been spending that energy doing something more productive. So what he says is you can switch front squats to post back squats, and I think that he should have not put front squats in the program in the first place. He should have just started with post back squats, and then add a note if you want to do front squats because you're going to transition to Olympic weightlifting, then do it. I will make videos later. I'm a bodybuilder. I do front squats. For most people, I do not recommend them, but I will explain in other segments. He has you do overhead press afterwards. I don't hate it. I do have an issue with it because I know that novices create neural pathways and associations in their heads very quickly because it helps them adapt to the new environment. You're going to have them do a static hold with a front rack and then move on to an overhead press, which if you're not doing a push press, these are two different stances. They're completely different styles of front racks, and I'm worried that a novice might confuse the two for each other because the lifts are so close together. But that's sort of it's a meh critic. I'm just throwing that out there. Okay, I'm not, as you notice, I'm not talking about the reps and the progression yet. We're just talking about the lifts, and then we're going to go in depth. It's going to be a long video. Give me 1 second. I'm just going to check the camera, see if it's working well. All right, we're all good. Let's keep rolling, baby. So we have, after that, Romanian Deadlift, as I said before, which I'm not a big fan of. I think that this day should really have started with a deadlift, followed by a back squat and then an overhead press. And you can leave the Romanian deadlift to rest. After that, he has you do lat pulldowns, which I'm not against, but any novice who is able to do 3 or more pull-ups should be doing pull-ups instead. And I will get back to it, but the lack of pull-ups in this program is concerning because pull-ups are critical. You need pull-ups in your program. They're non-negotiable. You need them. Chin-ups, pull-ups, neutral grip, all of it. As much as you can do. Because it's not taxing on the CNS. It's going to decompress your spine. It's going to teach beginners how to pull with their back for rows and to engage their upper back when they do deadlifts, which there's no deadlift in there, so I guess he knows what he's doing. And the lat pull-downs can be used as an accessory at the end of the workout for the beginner to strengthen the muscles that help to pull them up, but it shouldn't be a main lift. And then he has you do some ab work, some bicep curls in a superset. He has you do bicep curls, so at least there's some bicep movements in there. There's no forearm isolation outside of that. I'm not a big fan of that. If you see my novice program, you will see that I have you, if you're a novice, I have you try isolation movements because they are going to make your physique. The center line of the physique is going to be built by the compound movements. Anything on the sides is going to be built by isolation when it comes to the upper body. The lower body, I won't disagree with the fact that you can build it mostly with compounds. My lower body was built only with compounds. I never did any leg curls, any leg extensions ever. But for the upper body, you're going to end up with a massive torso and spaghetti arms and bad shoulders, and your back is not going to be complete. So I have an issue with that. So we went through the program. That's the entire program. And you have A and B and you rotate towards the days. And then he tells you about the substitutions, which I went through already. And I agree with most of his substitutions besides the one I already told you about. Yeah, one thing too is he says you can substitute lat pull-downs with any form of pull-up chin-ups as if they were the same, but they're not the same. Pull-up and chin-ups are not just a vertical pull. They are the vertical pull. You need to be doing them. You need to get better at them. Trust me, I gave up on them for almost 2 years. I was an excellent calisthenic athlete, and then I got very heavy, and I decided to just stop because who needs pull-ups, right? And then when I started doing them again, I could barely do 5, and that's not okay. If you want to be big, you need pull-ups in your program. I regret having given up on them because all of that time I could have developed my back with them and I didn't. And now I have to catch up. So I don't want that to happen to you. So that's it for the lifts. We're done with the lifts. Now let's talk about the reps. Okay, the sets and the reps. For all of your strength work, so for squat, bench, overhead press, he has you do 3x5. I do not like 3x5. I really do not like it. It's interesting that he says at the start of the program introduction that he felt that many programs didn't have enough volume, and then he makes a program with a 3x5 strength work. That's not enough volume, and the 3x5 and 5x5 rep schemes, in my opinion, are too rigid. They don't allow for progression. For me, if you're able to do a 3x5 of a weight, you're both shortchanging yourself or you're overexerting yourself. Meaning you're going to barely get 5 reps on your 3 sets, and then you're going to come the next week or the next 2 days later or 4 days later here, and you're going to fail the weight. Or it's going to be super easy. The 3x5 is going to be super easy, and you're going to come the next day, it's going to be super easy again until you stall, which basically is what he says, because as a novice, the 3x5 will not have you stall or plateau. But that's my issue with this program and with most novice programs. It has failure in mind, meaning that it already predicts when you're going to plateau because it assumes you're going to plateau. And instead of preemptively introducing a rep range that is evolving to help you avoid that plateau, it basically rushes you into that wall as fast as it can. But then when you're there and you don't have any gas anymore, it will leave you there. I don't like that. I don't like those programs that people can say, oh, he put 150 pounds on his deadlift. Okay, Good. What about his progression after that? Oh, he put on 20 pounds in like 3 years. Then the program was bad. The program made you fail the rest of your lifting career, and that's no good. So 3x5, I don't like. 5x5, I don't like. Especially concerning the fact that the only horizontal press he has you do is bench. And it's going to be, because you do it every other day, it's going to be that at best, you're going to have 15 reps of challenging horizontal presses, 15 reps times 2, so it's 30 reps a week of horizontal presses that challenge you. That's not enough, in my opinion. I know that people say novices don't need volume. Novices need an introduction to volume. There should at least be some push-ups in there or some dips in there. He basically tells you can replace the bench with dips, but that's replacing, it's not extra reps. And there is no option here to slap on some additional volume, so I'm not a fan of that. Romanian Deadlift 3x8. So you basically do 1 to 2 exercises a week of hip hinge, which is the Romanian deadlift, which is not a pull from the floor, so it's not full range of motion the way most people do it. And you're going to do 3x8. So you're going to end up doing 24 reps. So some weeks you'll have 24 challenging reps of hip hinges. Again, not enough. Especially because it's not full range of motion, it's not from the floor, that's not enough. Overall, outside of what he does, and even what he does with the isolation movements, I mean, he has you do 2x10 superset on bicep curls. That's 20 reps of bicep curls. That's not enough. You need more volume. Or at least you need something that's going to allow people to transition into more volume. Because what he says is, stay on that program until you stall. But strength gains when you start because your brain adapts to the lift so fast. You can grind and you can ride the strength gains super long. So you're going to stay on a program that's going to keep you at the same volume, right, with the weight increasing. So your strength is going to go up. And don't get me wrong, your muscle hypertrophy is going to be promoted, but it's not going to be as promoted as if you were doing more volume as you went up in strength. And that's typical, because you're going to end up finishing that program, plateauing, and then thinking, okay, where do I go from there? And you're going to have to jump on a high volume program compared to this, and it's going to be super tough to transition because you didn't really have a bridge. You went from strength work to volume, but you can do both, and you should do both in moderation for novices. So that's another issue with that, with the rep ranges he picked. And also because he doesn't really let you choose. In my novice program, I let you choose the rep range. I give you different rep ranges to play around with because you're a novice and you're not some idiot who needs to be told, oh, do that number of reps and only that number of reps. You need to be able to have some freedom and to decide what works for you. And some people will say, novices don't know better. Well, they have to, because eventually they're going to have to make their own stuff. So they need to learn early on. So that's an issue. And the sets and the reps, as I said, it's too little. One thing I like, and we're going to go back to things I like. He's not afraid, the creator of the program, he's not afraid of monotony. He's not afraid of having novices repeat the same lifts again and again. And that's very good, meaning that he gives you enough compounds and just enough variations of the compounds so that you don't get bored of doing squat, bench, deadlift until you die, like certain programs have you do. But he's unashamed of the compound movement bias, and that's great. Novices shouldn't be playing around with landmine press and all that stuff. You don't touch that. It's not for you yet. You don't deserve those toys. You have to play with the basics first, and when you master the basics and the variations, some variations, then you get to play with something else later, but not at the start. So that's really good. That's something that every novice program should have you do, without getting stuck into that mentality of only barbell movements and only the big three. That's bad too. There are extremes in everything. Do not deal with absolutes. We want to do what works. We don't care about ideologies. So now let's talk about overall muscle development, because that's what this channel is about. It's about hypertrophy. I'm critiquing the program from an hypertrophy standpoint. I don't see enough hamstring work. It's lacking in hamstring work. You're going to be doing, he would have you do squats and front squats, which put the emphasis on the quads and the glutes. You're going to develop an imbalance and you're going to end up with knee problems. You need to do more hamstring work than quad work from a health standpoint, all right? And because he only has you do one hip hinge, it's not enough. So that's one problem. There's not enough vertical pulls, which in my opinion are more critical than horizontal pulls for beginners. There is not enough. Shoulder is good. He has you overhead press. He has you do some face pulls. I don't think beginners need to do side raises or all that stuff. You can stay with overhead press. Chest, as I said, there's not enough horizontal press volume, so you need more of that. There's basically no isolation trap work. I will give him a pass for this because it's still working your traps in my head is sort of like working your calves. You can do it later because the muscle responds so well to isolation that it's not an issue if you only grow them with compounds at the start. But he has to do Romanian deadlift with 3x8, so it's not maximal weight. So your traps growth is still being undersold. So you need deadlift in the program, as I said. Where I really have an issue here is limb. The upper limbs, there's not enough bicep work. It's not acceptable. You need chin-ups in there. There's no forearm isolation. And it's not even like you could argue, oh, forearms will grow from pulls. From Pendlay Rows and Romanian Deadlift, I don't think so. So you need at least some hammer curls in there and some wrist flexion in there. There's no long head of the tricep work, almost none. So you need at least some skull crushers that you can switch with the tricep press downs. I would have some, I would have much more volume on the skull crushers as well. Because beginners are going to be very uncomfortable doing low reps skull crushers. So you have to do them with light weight, but they have to rack up more volume to make up for the tonnage. Real delt is okay. Upper back in general is okay. Lower back. A strong lower back will prevent injuries for the rest of your career. When I started lifting, I'll make videos about it. Because I lifted at home, I did not have access to any bar to do pulls from the floor. So the only thing I could do for lower back was the silliest thing. I would do bridges, right, on a bed, and I would stack weight on my belly. I would stack plates like a tower, and I would do that all the time for minutes and minutes to build my lower back. Guess what? I never got injured, never had a lower back injury ever. So I want beginners and novices to do lower back. And the best lower back exercise isolation for me is hyperextensions. Why? It teaches you how to pull with your posterior chain because it engages the hammies and the glutes, and the lower back serves at what it's supposed to serve. It's a rigid segment that connects the arms that carry the weight and the legs that move the weight through space. So hyperextensions are lacking. There's not enough lower back work. Not enough ab work either, isolation, but that's not a surprise because ab isolation is basically shunned because people think, oh, if you just do the compounds, you'll be fine. Well, one of the best compounds for core development is deadlift. He doesn't even have you deadlift. So I have an issue with that. So yeah, going through my head about all the muscles of the body. Yeah, as I said, calves, he doesn't really make you have work that much, but I don't care. Quads, get enough work. 2 knee flexions is enough. Yeah, that's pretty much covering it all. No neck work, but it's same logic as with calves and traps. Neck you can work later when you have a solid physique. That's okay. So that's pretty much wrapping it up. as far as the critique of the program goes. He has you do warm-ups. He has you do warm-up sets. He says at least one. I would never tell a novice that. I would tell a novice, put weight on the bar, and when you're warm, start your working weight. If it takes 5 warm-ups, do 5. If it takes 3, do 3. Just never jump into heavy weight. Always warm up. And stretching routines, he says it's not a must. I agree, it's not a must. You don't have to do static stretches. So that's pretty much that. As far as the progression goes for the weight, he tells you to go up in weight 10 pounds for lower body lifts and 5 pounds for upper body lift every week. That's a good progression for novices. He tells you also that you can increase the reps if you cannot increase the weight. I like that. So even though his rep range and sets are set in stone, there's still some room to play around here. I like it. The progression is not a bad thing. My issue, as I said before, is that because you're going to progress so fast, it's going to lead you full speed into the wall of plateauing, and when you hit that wall, you're going to, all of that weight you put on the bar super fast is going to basically bite you in the butt, because you're going to either have to stay at that plateau and see the fast gains you are making slow down so much is going to be discouraging, or you're going to have to deload and go back to learn how to train with volume and tonnage, and it's going to be discouraging too. So it ties into the critique I had at the start. So how would I change that program? I'm going to, in the description, put the workouts that he has and the workouts I would have instead. So I would put more horizontal presses in there in the form of push-ups. I would change the rep schemes. I would change front squat for back squats, post back squats, and then put front squats if people want. I would put deadlifts in there. I would put more isolation work. And as far as the frequency goes, I'm not going to touch it because it's the template and that's the way to play the game. So I'm not going to modify that. So go check the description to see what I would do instead. And if you want to see what I would come up with for novices, you can go check the Natural Hypertrophy playlist. I have a free hypertrophy program for novices. Thank you for watching that video. Thank you for the person who sent me the request. If you want me to review a program, please let me know. Just know that I will not be reviewing, or rather, unless I really have a lot of people asking, I will not be reviewing 531 and cube method, all of that stuff, because it's been reviewed before by hundreds of people. So if you can find something a bit niche, a bit special, I'm more interested in that. And if you have your own program you want to send to me, I love that too. I will make videos about it. Thank you for watching. Have a good day.